You're listening to The Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Light. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Without further ado, let's start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Table Talk. Welcome to a brand new episode. I am your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life. Glad to have you all here tonight. I am stoked to be talking to you guys, and thank you all for being here. I have an awesome guest tonight who I am been looking forward to doing this for a long time. He is a best friend of mine for about 20 plus years. That's the only person I can really say I've been best friends with for 20 plus years. So this is going to be awesome with us being able to talk about, friendship, talk about our passions. He is a very big, passionate dancer where, me, I'm a big, passionate musician. So we're going to be able to talk about our passions together and how they can, how they kind of commingle and, we can, break off similarities and differences and just talk about life, man. It's, going to be fun. But before I do that, I want to be able to give a shout out to the Patreons over on Patreon. Bernadette, David, and Mary, thank you all for being very supportive over on the Patreon page. And if you want to be a part of the Patreon, please go to patreon.com/table_talk and check out the tiers that we have. We are dishing out content over there, over at the private community. You'll be able to get bonus footage of episodes, audio downloads, video downloads, and instant access to the private community. Trying to form the big community over there. And also we have a Facebook group page. So if you feel you want to, do something a little bit more or less and just, you may not want to do the Patreon, but you still want to contribute to the Patreon or the Table Talk community, find us on the Facebook group of Table Talk Community. So you guys can go over there and join on the Facebook group. Would love to have you guys over there. So with that said, if you guys are watching, this is going to be a previously recorded episode tonight, so I'm unable to be going live this week, so I'm recording this on an off night with my best friend here, and looking forward to talking to him. I'm going to get to him in a sec, and this will be uploaded in a few days. I'm just going to edit a couple things down, and this will be uploaded to YouTube. It's going to be uploaded to Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, so you guys can be able to watch this all here. If you guys are watching the thing now, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So why don't we get into our special guest tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jim Green, everybody. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. This has been a long time coming.
Absolutely. It's
been, we've had our conversations about, our different passions, you being a dancer, me being a musician. We've had numerous talks about, our different passions, but I don't think we've ever publicly talked about them and how, when we talk about our passions, that it's a different conversation when people can just say like, oh yeah, I like dance or I like music. But like when you are an actual dancer or an actual musician, it's a totally different conversation because you are the one who is entertaining those people rather than the people who are being entertained. So it's, cool to actually talk to like-minded individuals, and it's not always about music here on Table Talk, and I'm starting to branch out with people who are not only musicians but just all different types of entertainment, because we all love to entertain people with different types of forms of entertainment. So I'm looking forward to picking your brain about dance and a lot more, man. So for those who do not know you, why don't you give everybody a little background to who you are?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and I had two older sisters that were dancing at the time before my younger sister was born, and I had all female cousins. Um, the Jackson 5 movie, I think I can't remember the name of it, but they
Is
did a
it
whole
the American Dream?
the American Dream. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, that's the one. So I was 4 years old, and I don't remember anything before I was seven. And as I get older, that number rises. So I don't remember. I don't remember anything before yesterday at this point. Yeah. So I mean, I ran into like my laundry room and I grabbed like a white glove and a hat that totally wasn't an MJ hat when he did Billie Jean. And my mom was like, he has to dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seven. And I think also my other passion was I want to know how to flip. Like I wanted, like I saw people doing tricks and stuff. I was like, wow, I want to do that. Like that's so cool. I want to do that.
Mm.
So my mom enrolled me in like some preschool gym and dance class. I was seven, and then I was like a year later. Really embarrassing. I was seven, and I did this piece, and I had to wear this like full blown one piece unitard.
Mm.
And back in I think it was 1994. It didn't feel very cool. I had like
Right.
these gold sequence like stripes running down my chest. Um, and like I said, nowadays you can do anything
Right.
in the art field, and you have to accept it. And if you don't, you can go suck eggs. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the way of the world now, which is great. Everything should be accepted, especially if you work in the art world. Nothing is out of the realm of possibility, and that is so important. Like for me, especially with all the friends that I have from diverse backgrounds. But anyway, um, the next year I was like in a room with these two girls, and they were like, "You're doing a jazz dance now," and I was like, "Okay." But then, fast forward a few years, like jazz dancing was my favorite thing, and
Right.
then um, by the time I was going into middle school, I was introduced to like street jazz and hip hop dancing, and I had met my like very first like dance teacher inspiration that made me say, I might want to do this when I'm older. He was the coolest guy. I would go to conventions and take class from him, and then the faculty would do like a staff performance at the end of the weekend, and I would watch him and be like, I want to be him. I hope that I get to be as cool as this guy one day.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that was like kind of the start of it, and it's really interesting. I got to eighth grade, and I wasn't planning on like going into any of this stuff, but we're here. We're here now. I'm talking about my journey, and um, I was getting picked on a lot for being a male dancer in the late '90s. Like that wasn't a very acceptable thing. Like
Right.
fast forward 20 to almost 25 years now, and boys can dance is not a problem. I mean, there's guys that dance all over TikTok, and there's boys that dance,
Exactly.
and it's just a widely accepted thing now. I grew up in a time where it just was like, oh, if you dance, this means that you're a certain
Right.
thing, and I was like, no, I'm dancing because I genuinely love it. I think love doing this. My mom saw how much I was being tortured through middle school. She wanted me to quit because she didn't want me to bear the pain, and I was like,
Yeah.
nope.
Comes a point where that you, kids can be cruel no matter what. But
I mean,
uh,
middle school. Like, let's be serious. Like, everyone is like trying to learn to have a voice, even though they don't know that they have a voice. And if you know that you have a voice in middle school, good for you. Like,
mhm,
you are mature at a very young age, and you're probably being extremely respectful. But you are in the minority. Let's be
yeah,
serious,
right.
right? So it got to the point where and I would never preach violence. I won't. And
Hmm.
my mom was like, the next time that so and so says what and what to you,
Hmm.
you yank him out of his bench seat at lunch and you pop him one. And
Uh-huh.
it was so funny because it never happened,
Right.
and I've never had to encounter a violent experience since then. And I am so proud of that because it's not the solution to anything, right?
No. No.
So I moved. I think. Do you remember the eighth grade talent show where like it was all girls and then there was me, and it was just a bunch of dance pieces? So
If it's the same one that you and me were in, I think it was the same one that I actually went up and did my first solo performance.
so you're thinking of our high school senior variety show. I'm talking about we had an eighth grade talent show,
Well, yeah,
and
there was an eighth grade talent show, or no, no, yeah, there couldn't have been because no, I didn't really start getting into bands until high
high
school.
school.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so I wasn't a part of that, but yeah, I think I do vaguely remember you. I think that might have been well, no, maybe sixth, seventh grade. I think that's when I started. When we started hanging out, and I started going to one of your dance competitions. And I've never been to a dance competition in my life, and kind of just
sure.
seeing the whole, because I was brought up with sports, and I was vaguely starting to get into music sixth, seventh grade.
But you knew sports life,
But
which
I knew the
is a
sports life,
very
so
like
yeah,
structured situation, and
yeah, so it was
dance
very different with
is
like
different. Yeah,
in between and during the performances of how the community is of like cheering on the people and kind of getting the vibes of everything. So it was very interesting to see a different community type of people and how they react. Where you have a sports community and then you have your dance community. I mean, different aspects, but it's always cool to kind of just go out of your comfort zone and see how other things are played out. So, and then obviously going to see you perform, and that's the first time like in my eyes, I was like, yeah, this kid definitely loves what he's. You can tell he has a genuine love for what he does up there, and like he takes it serious.
sure. And I think uh, validation is like you don't want to rely on it like to be the purpose for why you do whatever you do. But from sixth grade to eighth grade, I was like on this journey and just feeling like nobody accepted me, or I mean, a few people did. You did,
Hmm.
obviously, but I did this this talent show in the eighth grade, and this was like off the brink of like what my mom was saying about like one more word, give it to him, kind of thing. And I
You
was
did
just
it.
like,
You did a Daughtry song, right? That was the one you did, Daughtry.
no, I was 21 years old when I did the Daughtry song. Daughtry wasn't a thing in 1998. Come on.
What? What?
you're
I'm getting my years all messed up. I know. I
you're
know you
getting
did Daughtry
you're
one time, but or was that Jeffrey
we're,
Gaines?
we're getting to those. So Jeffrey
Yeah.
Gaines was when I was like 18, 19. Daughtry was
Okay.
when I was 21. I'm going back to when I was 14.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a little off. Timeline's a little off there.
So we had in the eighth grade, after I did that talent show, I did a couple solos, and I think everyone had this preconceived idea, like, oh, he's a ballerina, which
Yeah.
what, like wasn't a cool thing
I remember you
back
talking
then.
about the outcomes of after you got done doing that, and a lot of people coming up to you and be like you were just saying, like I expected something way different, and after I saw you do that, like, dude, I've total respect for
Yeah,
what you do.
yeah. So exactly what you're talking about right now. One of the most popular guys in our grade in middle school, um, and he's great.
Hmm.
He's still a great member of the community right now. I ran into him in the hallway one on one, and he was like, "I just want to let you know, um, that was really cool what you did." And that, like, that validation right there to me was like, okay, for all of the ish that I went through in middle school, that just happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went to high school and I still, tried to fly under the radar. I didn't talk about me dancing too much. I mean,
Right.
my uh, fellow dance peers that I um, grew up at my hometown dance studio with, that went to school, like, they knew that I danced, but it wasn't, widely talked about or whatever,
Right.
which is great. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to go to dance, like, after school, and I want to dance.
Yeah.
And that was my, like, as a child, that was my safe place. It
Right.
wasn't the best. It wasn't the best place ever, but I didn't know anywhere else. And
Exactly.
um, I'll circle back to that in a few minutes. But yeah, I was just kind of like, get me to graduation so that my aspirations was like, get out to LA
Mm-hmm.
so that I can pursue dance. And
Which is like the typical. Would you say like LA is normally like one of the typical ones to be like everybody wants to go to LA? Everyone. I mean,
it's the dream.
music
It's the
wise,
dream.
it's. I mean, it's L.A. usually, or the big popular ones like New York, L.A., and I mean, I still think Philly has its you know, his ups and downs with being a good music community. But I know always like New York and L.A. have always been good breakout places. But like for dance, it seems like everybody's always like, I gotta get out to LA, and this is where I need to be if I want to make it.
Yeah, I mean, you hear stories about, like, people who came from this town or that town. They weren't from New York or LA, but they all wind up there. I
You're
mean,
right.
that's you don't gravitate to Washington D.C. to become a member of Cirque du Soleil. Like,
Right.
you go to Las Vegas for that. You know what I mean?
Uh
So,
huh.
um, or I mean, you can get that gig somewhere else, but like, that's kind of the root of where that industry is. So I went to high school, and I was still doing karate because I did karate and baseball and dance when I was 7 years old. And my parents were running me around. I was like coming off the baseball field, and my mom's like, "Put your gi on, get your belt on." And then I was doing karate, and then they were like, "Get your jazz shoes on." So, like, I did get to try a few things, but
Yeah.
like, my three sisters, I mean, my two older ones at that point, because my younger one wasn't born yet. Um, so Miss and Kim were dancing at that point, and they were pretty invested. They were doing a lot, and my parents were like, "You got to give one up." So I gave up baseball, which I think crushed my dad a little bit because he wanted his son to do like the sports stuff. But like,
Yeah.
the best thing that I'll ever say about my dad, once he loved that I still did karate, and I think he was upset when I gave it up when I was 14, because I got to the point where I was so invested in dance as a freshman in high school, and it was like I came to the turning point where it was like, okay, well, you're going to get better at this, or you're going to get better at this,
Yep.
and I chose dance. And I think my dad knew, like, all right, well, as long as my son is invested full heartedly, that's all he cared about,
Yeah.
you know.
As long as he's happy.
Yeah, and my dad worked so much while I was a child. I didn't have a strong connection with him while I was a kid. Um, Neither did any of us. He was just a workhorse. My mom
Right.
took care of us. My uncle Rick was here all the time with us. Not here because we moved, but
Yeah.
here for my mom to help take care of the kids and everything. Um, but yeah, I mean, I got to the point in high school. Like I said, I was flying under the radar. I wanted to be an engineer like my dad. And it was a summer going into my senior year, and my mom was like, "You are so good at math. Why don't you consider going to college, getting your degree to be a math teacher, and then you can teach? You can be a math teacher during the day, and then you can be a dance teacher at night, kind of thing."
Yeah.
So I graduated high school. Um, I, was going to Westchester University to be a math teacher, and I did that for, God, I did it for 2.5 years, but in the first year and a half, I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This
Right.
is my destiny, because everyone knows what they want to do when they're 19, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I was enjoying. I didn't live on campus. I commuted, which was fine. And I enjoyed the math thing so much. I loved helping people understand math.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that was kind of the start for me as to where I am now, where it's like I grew to the point where I took from so many dance teachers that I was so inspired by, where I was like, I want to be that person one day. So I gravitated towards wanting to be a dance teacher as well.
Right.
So, I was going to school to be the math teacher thing. And then this thing fell into our hands where it was like, the studio I was growing up at, there were a lot of clients that were coming out and telling my mom, you guys could do this and do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just one parent. And it wasn't just disgruntled parents with like the way that the other organization was being ran. It was just they knew like our personality, our vibe. And so my mom, I remember being in my driveway still, the driveway here, not at my old house, with my mom and her saying, I was like 20 years old, and she was like, we can do this. And I was like, I'm going to sacrifice like my college life, my freedom,
Yeah.
to do this thing now. And she was like, well, you could start this at 30 years old and start from there.
Right.
Or we can start now. So I was like, okay, let's get a head start.
Right.
And like, we had the puzzle pieces in place at the time, at the start. And then a couple of things fell apart, and that was kind of like the fracture up front. But, in our 12 prosperous years before we hit COVID, the first 6 years easily were like we were going uphill.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like
right
after the fact. So we had a rocky run. After that, I started teaching at a couple other studios just to be like, hey, I want to explore. I don't want to be secured one place. And I made sure that I was teaching at least 10 miles away from my home studio. So I was teaching down in Delaware. I was teaching out in Westchester. And then fast forward a few years, and then I was teaching down in Newcastle, Delaware, and down in Middletown, Delaware. COVID hit. A lot of other things hit. And, fast forward, and now I am about to enter a season where I'm teaching potentially a studio in New Jersey, 2 studios, one up in Limerick, one in Bluebell, Pennsylvania, one in Wilmington, one in Newcastle, Delaware, and one down in Baltimore. And I just got home this past weekend. I was traveling, doing backup dancing gigs down in Tampa, Florida, and over in San Jose, New Jersey. So, needless to say, as a 4-year-old watching Michael Jackson, I was like, I want to do that. And as a 34-year-old, fast forward 30 years later,
Yeah.
I'm doing this shit. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, I am not often proud of myself, but I'm very, very much so not often proud of myself. But I am right now, and it's just a good feeling. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled and blessed to be able to say, you know, um, this is where I'm at. Teaching all over the place as much as I am goes back to me saying I want to help other people.
Exactly.
And that was me wanting to be a math teacher and help people understand math. Me wanting to be a dance teacher and aspire um, to inspire
Right.
like the mentors that I had growing up. I was like, I want to be that person. And every so often, um, I run into those moments where I'm like, I'm doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the most fulfilling thing of my life. So, um, welcome to my TED Talk. We're good.
Well, that's a hell of a journey, man. And
Yeah, I mean,
I know
it's
I've kind of been, seeing a lot of your journey since, us being friends for so long. And, I've seen your progress. And like you were saying, just from, you know, having a lot of your, just being a regular dancer, then becoming more of like the business side of dance, and then now becoming the teacher and inspiring kids and other adults, uh, and showing them your love for it, just like when you were that age, to hopefully spark them and let them see what you were feeling, and like to hopefully spark somebody to give them the same feelings what you had, to be like, yeah, this is how I express myself, and I want to pass this down to other people. And like you were saying, uh, you know that I mean, you're a great, mathematician. You're great with numbers, and you almost, in a way, like you found, the next best thing of being able to help people by, teaching dance. So you were still able to keep dancing your life, even though, I mean, and I always say this with people, uh, college isn't necessarily always for everybody. And
yeah.
I feel even today, I mean, you do need a college degree, but in the same way you can go through life without it. I mean, there are entrepreneurs that, being your own boss is, has its ups and downs just like anybody, but it's so much more rewarding and fulfilling when you have those uprings, and you have those successful things that happen, like you are now, that you're starting to tour a lot, and you're starting to up your places that you're teaching at, and your name is getting out there, and more people are recognizing your passion. And I wanted to also bring back what you were saying about the fact that, like, that crossroad that you were talking about, with going with baseball and dance, and you chose dance. I remember I almost had the same thing with sports. I told you I was growing up playing basketball. My dad and me and my brother were big basketball people. We played
Yeah.
all the way through high school, and I had a falling out with the high school coach.
I remember that. I
And
remember that.
it was a big thing, and I did not want to stop, but I had also, when I was in the same boat, as I was just starting my first band, and I was really into music at that point, and I had to do the same thing as you. I had to choose, well, I can either go through my senior year and probably not play as much and sit on the bench in my senior year in front of all my peers, or I can get better at this band thing and continue to work on my craft. And I picked music, and I mean,
Yep.
I don't necessarily have any bad regrets of it. The only thing that I really wish I probably would have stayed for was my brother, but because he was on the JV team, so it was more of like, you're staying there for your brother. But I just knew I wasn't in the greatest position, and like you said, I mean, I wasn't in a great space. I knew it. Uh, you know,
You knew you had to check out. You were
I
like,
it, and
it,
it's
like
like when
saying
people
that.
say
Yeah,
that it's like when people say doesn't when something stops becoming fun for you, it's probably your best way to give it up. And I felt, I still love basketball to this day, but it just, with all that drama, it just quickly got drained out for me, and it was not fun for me anymore. I felt bad leaving a lot of my, you know, basketball friends, and just but I feel that if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I would be now with music, with being my own business person, and playing my own gigs, and playing with the bands that I did, and getting better at my craft. So I feel like I'm in that same spot as you now, that like you're loving what you're doing, and just as a musician too, you have your times where you're like, man, I see all these other people getting those big breaks, and getting the shows that you wish you were at, but you're like, you just got to stay in your lane. It's going to
yeah.
come for you, and you think about like success, and we can talk a little bit more about this too, with how you feel about it too. But I feel with success, it's a definition that comes in many different meanings for people. Some people say success is like playing for a sold out Madison Square Garden, where some people say success for me is selling 1,000 albums. Success can be selling out my local bar at a cover show. So it's success can be defined in so many different ways for people. But it's, as long as I feel, as long as you're happy with where you're at, and it's for making you fulfilled, and you're happy with where you're at, yeah, it's the best thing, because it's the worst thing being in a spot where you're not enjoying what you're doing, but you're just going day in and day out being like, I wish I was doing something else.
right. I mean, did you want to follow up on that before I replied? Because I mean, I can say so much about everything you just said, and
Yeah,
up to you.
go ahead.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So let's go back to I'd say the recent past, and I'm gonna um, attempt to say this as respectfully as possible, and
Hmm.
I will, because I have this backup dance opportunity because two of my close friends were like, "Do you want in on this?" And I was like, "Yeah." I didn't have to audition for it. It was great. I just fell into it.
That's awesome.
Right. Um, it's like our friend Doug said. It's not what you know. It's who knows you.
Exactly.
And I mean,
Exactly.
he said that a few weeks ago or a month ago,
Hmm.
and you and I both read that and were like, "That's exactly it. That is the one."
And I've
Okay,
never heard it said like that before.
that
And
way.
it was kind of like,
Me neither. I was 34 years old, and when I heard that, it's not. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's who knows you, right?
yes.
And so it's a matter of how do you put yourself out there.
Right.
And I am such a timid and insecure person. I sit behind my dancing. It's like Michael
Hmm.
Jackson said before, and I just think about this all the time. He said in an interview once, I feel more comfortable on stage in front of thousands of people dancing and performing versus I'm sitting here and talking to you right now.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't speak. I had any public speaking assignment that I had, whether it was in high school or in
Hmm.
college. I skipped my high school one. I took the almost failing grade, my third marking period, my senior year. I was like, oh god,
Yeah.
this ain't good in my senior year. But I knocked out my research paper, my fourth marking period. I turned it in to my English teacher, and she graded it right there. She took like 6 points off. I got like a 294 out of 300. I stayed up all night, and she read through it, and she was like, "You're good." I was like, "I'm gonna graduate now, yeah!"
And I felt the same way with public speaking. That like I felt it's the same way with you. That I feel music for me when I'm up there in front of, it could be 5 people or
Sure.
like a couple hundred people. I feel like I can speak better versus if I'm in front of a crowd just mingling. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to sit back here. I'm going to be the follower in the conversation. But then, it's also like I am the host of a podcast. You can't be a follower when you speak. But I've always said this in a lot of my episodes that this podcast has actually made me a better speaker, probably a lot better than any public speaking class has ever done for me. And
Definitely.
because it's like,
I would agree, because I've seen you perform live more than probably anyone else,
and
other than your parents. But you are so solid now, and I'm like, man, he has come such a way, like a long way.
And like I said, awesome. Me probably more than other than my wife, but you know how shy I was growing up, and coming out of that shell. Hint, hint. It kind of gave me something to, really speak on, because and a lot of musicians are that way, that, when they're doing their music, they feel like they're, like you said, Michael Jackson. He feels he's a different person when he's on stage versus what you see in the public eye.
Or him just having a conversation one-on-one with someone, like he probably sits there and feels so anxious, right? Like,
right. And it's like, or when I feel, if I'm talking about music to somebody, I feel that's when my, I'm like, oh, I can talk about something that I love, and I feel like I can talk. But when it's something else that's not usually related to music, I'm just like, okay, you can talk, I'll follow. Like it's funny because a lot of people are like, especially with public speaking, like you go on stage and you play in front of hundreds of people, but you can't talk and you can't do a public speaking thing. I'm like, it was the hardest thing for me. Like I bet you if I had a guitar in my hand while doing a lot of those public speaking things, I probably would have done it a lot better.
Yeah. So your original track, Shell, the one line is, "I aim to please the world before myself," which is what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
And just going off of the public speaking thing, I had to do a presentation, educational psych. I think it was my 3rd semester in college, and I had to do a 5-minute presentation about something that I didn't know jack shit about. And like, I mean, like that was the whole thing, was like, to me, I was, hindsight after the fact, I was like, if I cared about this, I would have been really good at it. Right. I can stand up in front of a classroom, kids, adults, I don't care how old they are, and I can talk about dance until they're literally falling asleep in front of me, because it's what we know. It's what I like. I have so much to talk about with dancing, but like, if you're prompting me with an assignment that's like, go up and talk about the quadratic equation for 15 minutes, I'd be like, are you kidding me? I can talk about it for like maybe 15 seconds. Like, I knew the equation, but, and that's even me talking about a math thing, which I could probably talk about it for 3 minutes, but I think that, confidence is so big. And I think that you especially, because I know where you were, and where I was when we were both in high school, like on a confidence spectrum, especially that one time in Ocean City when we went to that nightclub. We don't have to go into further detail than that, but you know what we're talking about.
That could probably be for a different podcast.
See us next time for details on that one. I mean, I think Lil Wayne said it best, and like, I'm not even the biggest fan of his. Mona Lisa is my favorite, and Kendrick's on the track, and I'm not even such like a huge rap and hip hop fan, like in that spectrum. I'm just a lot more of a fan of tell a story, be creative. You know what I mean? And he does that there. But Lil Wayne's line is confidence is a saying that you can't wipe off, right? And my other inspiration, not that Lil Wayne is one, but
Mm-hmm.
so my second cousin, little Matt, got me this book for Christmas by
There he is.
Justin Timberlake.
Uh-huh.
It says hindsight and all the things I can't see in front of me. Right.
Right.
So so big, like such a great book. Such a like it was. I opened it and I had previously set with one of my great friends, one of my best friends, Mr. Mike, um, a Justin Timberlake compilation piece, and he happened to be in it. So when I and after that piece, um, performed, and I opened that, I was just like, yeah, because I taught him how to dance
Uh-huh.
for such a long time, and he still dances. He just turned 17, and he's great. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I had Michael Jackson growing up. He doesn't have that, but he has Justin Timberlake, and I don't know any other performer that is on that kind of level for inspiration like that.
Right.
Um, so I think um, it's just I know I'm sidetracking a little bit, so I apologize, but
No, no, no.
there's just so much that we can talk about, and there's so much that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So where were we? I apologize. Try to catch me up on where you started me, and then I can get back on track.
You were talking about my track Shell.
Yeah. So I know I said I aim to please the world before myself, which was just me wanting to help others with math. I discovered I could even dial it back to when we were in the sixth grade. I knew how to unlock our lockers
Uh-huh.
so fast. And so I would go out and help other people that were like,
Yeah. It's like that
right?
first day of high school.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, I'm not going to memorize your combination, but I want to help you unlock your locker. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would go around and help people. Boom. And they were like, oh my God, can you do it again? And I'd shut the locker and be like, no, but I watch you do it on your own. And then they
Yeah.
do it. And I'd be like,
There
you're
you
good to
go.
go. And I, like 11 years old, like, I was like, okay, I want to help people.
Uh-huh.
So, God, I wish we could get back onto what I know that I was driving at. It's fine. We'll go back and rewatch this, and then I'll say, ooh, and I'll note it down for the next time that
Yeah,
I am again
absolutely.
on. We just have so much to cover.
So
You're right.
much to cover, so little time at usual
Uh,
things.
we have plenty of time. We have plenty of time. I just want to say cheers. Thank you for having me on board.
Absolutely, brother. Thank
Clink,
you.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too, man. Uh, there were a couple things that, knowing that you come from, and like I said, our backgrounds, although different, they kind of have a lot of the similarities too. But it's like, one's going through a music standpoint, one's going through a dance standpoint. But I feel it's like, music and dance kind of always go in and out when it comes
They
because
interweave, right? Yeah.
yeah, because I mean you can't well, you can dance without music, but it's almost like you can't. It's almost like you can, but you can't dance without music because that's where the feeling comes from, and it's
Right.
more like music is like what is that? It's right on my wall here. Music is what feelings sound like.
Yeah,
that's the biggest line that I've always heard, and that's all. It's planted to my wall over here in my little basement studio here. But
sure.
yeah, that I feel, and that's why I wanted to have this type of conversation, because we have so much talk about when it comes to dance and music and how they intertwine, and we both love entertaining people. But
Yeah, I mean,
when you've already mentioned, you know, Justin Timberlake and Michael Jackson, and what who were a couple other people, and it could be either now or through your couple years, like who were those people that continue to inspire you to be like, yeah, this is a guy that I want to be influenced by and take some stuff from? Like, who are a couple of the people that inspired you to continue to, improve yourself and want to improve your craft of dance throughout the
yeah,
years?
yeah. So the one thing while I was like kind of driving through, like growing up as a dancer, the studio I was at, and the studios that I had worked for, and the studios that I'm working for now, I didn't really tap into one of the bigger pivotal components in my 20s, especially. I traveled with this convention called Monsters of Hip Hop, and
Right.
you remember me traveling with Monsters and me telling you, "Oh, I'm here for Monsters. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
Monsters this weekend for the." Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that convention had the like top hip hop choreographers in the country and from around the world. I mean, they had people from New Zealand, they had people from Ireland, they had people from everywhere coming in. Canada, South America, and like it just. I was just so very fortunate because the regional manager of the convention reached out to me after I had attended a few events and was like, "Hey, we're looking to build a street team. Um, we want people to come through and help set up and break down the event," um, which was like so very rewarding for me to like see the start of the event and the closing of the event. And they said, if you help us set up the event and break down the event, we'll put you up in a hotel and we'll let you train for free. So the only thing I was responsible for was my travel,
Uh-huh.
which was like super worth it to me. That was like more worthwhile than paying for a college education for me to learn how to dance at college. Like I got to go do that and learn so much knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for, oh God, I want to say 6 to 8 years. There were 2 to 4 years where I did anywhere from 6 to 8 cities in a season, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're running a dance studio like
Yeah.
at home and being like, I gotta not be here this weekend, and I gotta go to Chicago this weekend, I gotta go to Nashville this next
Yeah.
weekend, and
Especially
like
trying to
it.
have that big of a schedule,
Oh man, I mean, and that wasn't even so bad when I had one studio, or even I think at the time I only had two studios, and the second studio I only taught at once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not now where I'm teaching five studios or six studios, one every night between through Saturday or Monday through Saturday, and then I have these backup dance gig opportunities where it's like something's got to give. Either I do the performance and I take off from teaching, or I have to do the teaching gig and I have to not do the backup gig, right? Like, so it's very humbling, and I'm incredibly blessed to have more work coming my way than I have time for, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is a reward in itself, right? Because there are so many people out there that are aspiring for opportunities to be able to do all of these things, and they're yearning for the opportunities, right? I at least have learned like the power of no is very strong, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to say, like, I have a pending studio on a Monday in I won't say where it is or who it is. But I was already set in my mind, like, okay, I'm going to teach Tuesday to Saturday. Saturday or Sundays and Mondays will be my flex days to do private lessons because I do have flexible private lessons that I'm like, I can finesse.
Right.
Um, so I'm kind of torn, like, because the kids at the studio, the students are very good. They're very good. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be turning the studio down because the kids couldn't move. Let's just
Right.
put it that way. Like, not to be disrespectful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in my own mind, I'm like, this past year I had Monday nights off, and it was the most beautiful thing because so many people work Mondays, and I have just sat back and been like, it's my day off, you
Right.
know. And I'd be like, hey Anthony, what episode of Two Bears One Cave do you want to watch? You know, so
Shout out to Tom and Bert.
that's shout out to Tom and Bert, right? But yeah, back to the monsters thing. They had me travel. I would pay for the travel, but they would book my hotel room and they would let me train for free in order to help set up the event and break down the event. So I would
Mm-hmm.
see the event for the convention in a hotel room come in on 8 pallets,
Mm-hmm.
shrink wrapped,
Yeah.
break it open, move everything to where it needed to go in the hotel, set it up. And then at the end of the weekend, when the convention was done and like people were looking around, they're like, hey guys, you can hang out as long as you want, but you got to go in the lobby because we got to wrap this ish up, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and just compiling everything onto the pallets, shrink wrapping them, and like, man, I will tell you the times that I did that in Chicago, where it was like a Sunday night, and I was shrink wrapping pallets
Yeah.
and getting out of there at 8 or 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday night and being like, all right, 15-hour drive home. Here we go. And I
Right.
get home. I get home, like with stops and gas and stuff. I get home the next day at noon and be like, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
But it just comes with the territory of like, I just did, the Tampa gig that I just did on Friday, last Friday, because this is airing, I believe, on Friday. Um, I woke up Thursday morning and the airline was like, your flight's been canceled. We've rebooked you for tomorrow morning. And I was like, my dance colleague and I, we had a hotel booked for Thursday night. So we were like, we're going to lose that room. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to be able to cancel that. So I got on the phone with an agent from American Airlines. And it was like, after 20 minutes, she's like, okay, we're going to fly you down to Raleigh, North Carolina, over to Charlotte, and then down to Tampa. And that was on a Thursday. We performed Friday, and then our flight out from Tampa on a Saturday morning was to Phoenix, Arizona, and then we flew to San Jose. We got there. We had, the day to get food, took a quick nap, went to the venue, did the show. Bodies were shot because we were
Yeah.
flying all day.
Right.
And then, the next morning we had to be at the airport, and we flew back to Phoenix, and then we flew back to Philly. It was like we did 7 flights in 4 days, and I was just like, yeah, that wasn't easy, but like I did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you being a father, like you don't know how you do it, but you just figure it out.
Exactly.
You just roll along.
You
Like
can read all the books you want, but until
you
you're in the thick of it, you, it's a new thing every day. And when people say it's something new every day, it is. They are not lying. It's definitely a new experience every day, but it's worth it in the end. All the sleepless nights, all the times that you're half asleep and you're trying to stay awake because he's awake, but it's just so worth it to know that you're taking care of this human that 100% relies on you, doesn't know anything in the world but his mom and his dad,
yep.
and he relies on you 100% to get him through his first couple years. And like I've always said to people, and I've said this before, that not many people remember their first 12 months of their life. When we go and have kids, you tend to
I
be
don't,
like,
I don't remember yesterday.
I'm the same way. And again, as I get older, my memory just starts shrinking down.
Yeah, you were rattling off stuff earlier, like, oh, didn't this happen? That I was like, oh, nope,
Nope, not at
no,
all.
no. But so
And
yeah, go
it's to
ahead.
the point where it's amazing what they go through in the first 12 years. But then again, you're thinking like, I went through that too, but you don't know because you don't really have that sense of memory unless you ask your parents or somebody who was around your parent, like if you're lucky to have your grandparents still, you can be like, well, hey mom, what was I like in my first, couple months? Was I doing what he's doing? What is are we kind of somewhat on the same track of like, and the same thing with both parents. You can kind of get information from your parents and grandparents, like if they were there, and just getting that type of extra help. But it's like, it's amazing the development and everything they go through in that first 12 months of just learn. And it's certain things you're like, they just come out knowing, like, when we first gave him baby food, like, he's been on just bottles for like 3, 4, 5 months, and we just start giving him food, and I'm like, how does he know how to just chew and swallow? But he just starts doing it.
It's human
And
nature. It's
right, and
it's
I'm like,
so weird to
it's just
watch
like,
it
how do
unfold
you
now.
like
Yeah,
you? Nobody teaches you how to like chew and swallow. You kind of swallow it, chew it, buddy. But like, he knows it. But like, it's like you don't teach that. Like you said, human nature. You just know that's what you're supposed to do. But it's crazy. Like, a little kid like that just instantly knows, but you don't teach him that.
well,
So it's amazing what those little things, and he hasn't started walking yet, but he's in that like transition of, he's been standing up with assistance, but he's starting to slowly, lift himself off those situations, and like for 1 or 2 seconds be able to balance himself, and then just sits down. So I'm like, okay, give it about another month and a half, we're gonna have a walker, and that's when the real fun starts. That's what everybody's been telling me. Like, yep, when he starts walking, that's when the real fun starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it certainly comes from a spoken life from a higher power.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
Definitely.
it's like your journey to becoming a father, and you and Jen becoming parents. It came from the higher power, and it always has,
Mm-hmm.
and it always will for any aspiring parent that wants to raise kids, or any aspiring leader. For me, my kid was my business,
Yeah.
and I nurtured it as best as I could, and sometimes I failed as a parent, and it's natural. It's human nature. We do that sometimes. You were asking about my inspirations earlier. I think I got into the Michael Jackson thing, and then I think we started moving.
Right.
Right.
And so we had hit. You were mentioning Michael Jackson, uh, Justin Timberlake, and then you started going into Monsters,
Yep.
and how you met a lot of inspiring people through there as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I think especially my journey with my crew, Point Blank. We formed in 2008. My best friends, other than you, Jeff and Herman,
Mm-hmm.
they're my dance best friends. They are, like, I can talk to them about dance and they get it.
Yeah.
They both have full-time day careers. They don't teach like I do.
Right.
They love dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their upfront first and foremost, but they absolutely love
Love
it.
it.
No different than I do. I mean,
Right.
I'm invested in it for a larger portion of my life. Like, they don't have the background training as
Right.
children growing up like I did,
Right.
but we share very similar qualities. And
They share
just
the
like you.
passion that you kind of have. So it's like you guys
Sure.
get, like you said, like they get you, you get them when talking about certain dance situations, and it's always fun to have people that get you on that type of level,
Sure.
because
And
you're not going to get that same type of conversation with somebody that necessarily doesn't necessarily understand it. You
right.
know, when you
I-
have something that you love, people may be like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to see you're doing good with it." Like, but they just don't fully understand it. Like, they don't understand how when you live, breathe, and think about it 24/7.
right. I mean, yeah, and I think that we can talk now that I'm talking about my crew, and we can talk about your bands that you were in. I loved both of the bands that you were in from. I mean, you can edit this out, obviously pre-recorded. Original Sins,
Mm-hmm.
Eyes of the Skyline,
Eyes, Skyline, Spectrums, totally
Spectrum.
different,
Yeah.
and totally different two genres too,
I mean, yeah.
which
I mean,
was
neither.
amazing to
Not
be with.
sure. I mean, it offered you versatility, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to a point where you're like, I want to do my own thing, right? So, with Point Blank, we had auditioned for America's Best Dance Crew several times, and we made
Mm-hmm.
it to like the final table of consideration. And with reality television, the way that it is like, hey, if you don't appeal to the general audience with a
Yes.
sob story, we're not casting you.
Yes. The same way with American Idol. I
Yeah,
felt they were
I mean,
going off people that had a good story to tell. I mean, it's not, I can't really necessarily say that they didn't, the people that make it are talented. They do have a talent, but I always felt that, and I feel the same way with, I think a lot of people might agree as well. Like, when Daughtry lost to, I think it was Taylor Hicks.
Taylor Hicks, the Silver
a lot
Fox.
of
Yeah,
a lot of people were like, Daughtry should have won it, and I feel the same way. But I feel the reason Taylor won was because he was more appealing to an audience at that time, where Daughtry had the talent, but they probably didn't see him as a marketable tool in that type of aspect. But then you see, and that's the
right.
thing with a lot of the people that won an American Idol. Like, I mean, you got your Kelly Clarksons and your, what's the country music star?
Harry Underwood.
Yeah, Carrie Underwood, two
Yeah,
big superstars that came from there.
sure,
And I feel even there's like Daughtry that didn't even win, but he's just on the same level, if not just as big
sure.
as those two. And, sometimes even people that didn't come in the second place, you had people that came up and like, you kind of forget that they were on American Idol. And like you were saying with the Best American Dance Crew, that like it's a TV show. I said that totally wrong.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I was just thinking about Bert fumbling his words earlier.
Yeah, but it's like, it's TV. They got to have something that they can have people connect with the audience and connect with that thing. So if you don't have a good, like, inspiring
Story.
story, then you're not gonna make it past a certain level. You might make it to a good height, and that was the same way. Like, when you see it, when you see it on TV with American Idol, they show you that you're going right to the judges. They don't show you that those people that go to the judges had already been in front of 2 and 3 different panels of people
Casting
before
director.
that, and they've
Yeah.
gotten through 3 different levels of casting before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't make it past the first, but I had some good feedback. But it's like they were saying, yeah, none of these people are going to meet I think Jayla was on it at the time, and I forget the other 2 panelists, but they're like, nobody's going to meet them today. You have to
Sure.
come back almost a month later and do more casting, and then they get to see those. And then they had a couple people where they were having some people shipped to a section of the stadium, and everybody's like, well, where are those people going? You get people talking around like, where are those people going? Like, oh, I heard they're going right to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And like, everybody's like, oh crap, like,
Yeah.
like I want to be in that thing now. But then but then you watch the tapes and you're trying to see if you see them, you didn't see anybody. So it's like, it is what it is. And again, they probably just feel, okay, you might go into Hollywood, but again, if you don't have that inspiring reality TV story to tell, like, I came from a, this, and I, worked my way up to that, and here I am today, and I'm looking to get this, and like, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to consider the demographic of who your audience is, right? Like that's
Yes.
this all comes down to money.
Yeah.
Let's be serious. So
And
the
they're always looking
networks are
for they're always looking for somewhat of the same thing. I mean, I'm talking about American Idol. I'm not sure if it was kind of the same way with the dance show, but
it's
they were always looking for a pop artist. And I think that's why Daughtry didn't win, because he was not pop, he was rock. And a lot
well,
of rock people did not get a lot of traction through American Idol. So, I'm
right.
not sure if it's the same way with the other show.
I mean, it's what I just said. It all comes down to money. It's all marketability. Okay, so
Yeah.
for the network, they're telling the casting directors of this TV show, cast people that will make the American audience watch this show.
Yes.
Do not cast your best dancers because they might be boring as shit.
Yeah.
And that was probably me. I'm not gonna lie. When I went on So You Think You Can Dance, I auditioned in Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
There were 5,000 people there. They took 25 people to Vegas, and I was one of them. That's 0.2% of the people that auditioned in Memphis. Right. And I was one of the people that made it, to Vegas.
And that's something to say out of all those people.
And that was strictly based on talent. But because when I got to Las Vegas and they pulled me into multiple rooms and they were interviewing me and they were like, "What's your story? Make us sell you." Like, without saying it, they were like, "Make us put you on this show.
Give us a reason for us to put you on the show."
It's reality television. They have to banter to the American viewer, and the American viewer watching TV is sitting there saying, "Hold my attention. Show me something that's not boring."
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, and I'm going back 12 or 13 years ago when I made it to Vegas for So You Think You Can Dance, and I was in one of the first few rounds to be cut because I went on stage, I danced, and I gave really lame interviews. I was just like, "I'm here to dance. That's my story. I love to dance." And that wasn't enough.
Right.
It didn't offer a sob story. I didn't say, "Oh, I do this because so and so in my family is real sick," or
"I'm doing this for my, blah blah blah."
Fill in the blank. Yeah, and I'm not discounting the people that do that by any means. I'm not disrespecting that at all.
Same way. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that had some very, big inspiring stories, whether, and again, with reality TV today, you do not know if some of them are true or if they were told, "Hey, put this story on just to make it seem," you never know. But I mean, if a lot of those stories were true, then hey, I mean, if you came from that and you got to that point, you deserve to be it, but then again, that's again what we talk about, you can have the most talent, but these people who are watching, like, you're talented, but give me something to want to vote for you. Like, if he's like, "Oh, he's coming from here," like, well, okay, I really want him to win, not just because he's talented, but because I believe in his story, and that's why I started liking The Voice, because it was strictly about the music. They turned around and didn't even see you. They didn't see your face. They didn't see your image. All they heard was your voice. And when you started singing, they tapped. And that's when you started getting the table started. And then that's when they see the person behind the voice. And I feel like that's, okay, it's talent first before the image. And they didn't really worry about a story. You didn't really get too much of like, maybe you didn't get much of a story until you get halfway through the season of knowing this person a little bit better. But when you heard their talent first, then the image of, well, the audience knew who they looked like, but the judges didn't see, but they got to see the talent first. And I feel that's, I can't say like it's the better show, but I feel it's more rewarding for the people who have the talent and don't necessarily always have the best story, but they can portray their talent because they know they have a talent, but they don't have that sob story. They do it just like you said. They're here because they want to play music. They want to dance. That they're just here because this is what they love to do, and I'm here to show you my passion. You know,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I mean, I have talked to even teachers that I've had growing up that have auditioned for the show that have said, "You need a story," and they were
hmm
basically like, "Nah, f you. I am here to dance. Like, if you don't want me for my dancing,
yeah,
I'll just go home." And the casting director's like, "Bye," because the network producers are like, we need something that's going to be compelling television. And if you just
yes,
put dancers on the television that aren't able to relate to the general viewing audience,
yeah,
dismiss. Bye. See ya.
yeah.
And
We're not going to get
that,
ratings with this person. You know.
that that was me. And I mean, that was, point blank. We, as a crew, had gotten to the final table 4 times for consideration to be on the show,
Uh huh.
and they were like, the last time that we went in, the lady that interviewed us, she took her clipboard and she slapped it on her leg and she was like, "All right, what's your story?" Because we knew we had to have a story. So Herman told a story. It wasn't it wasn't false by any
Now,
means.
was this person the same? Was this when you went 4 times? Did you have somebody new each 4 times, or did you have somebody like the same person almost every time you went, or was it somebody
Um,
different every time?
I think that particular one might have interviewed us one other time.
Gotcha.
Um, I only auditioned in 2008 and 2009. Didn't do 10. I'm trying to go back. We did 2012, and then They Without Me. Er, no, I think they did. Yeah, they did 2011 Without Me, and the one dancer after he auditioned for American's Best Dance Crew auditioned for So You Think You Can Dance, and then it took him to Vegas
Uh huh.
for So You Think You Can Dance. So he voided. Um, like he wasn't. You're not like the contract for those TV shows is you're not allowed to be on TV with two separate entities
Right.
within like X months of each other, right?
Yeah.
So because um, said dancer auditioned with Point Blank and they were up for consideration, then auditioned for So You Think You Can Dance, and he got taken to Vegas. He was immediately eliminated from the America's Best Dance Crew cast. So Herman called me and was like, said dancer did the whole situation I just said. I talked to the casting director. I told them that I had another guy. Would you be interested in doing it? I was like, I'll give you my headshot. I met him over in New Jersey.
Uh huh.
Here's my headshot. Here's my packet with my signatures, all 30 pages. Because if you go on TV, it's not a 1 page thing.
Yeah.
It's a thick stack. Okay.
hmm
Um, so I handed it off. Herman looked at my headshot and was like, "Dude, this is amazing. I love this." And we didn't get put on the show because there wasn't a story.
Yeah.
So um, the following year, I believe we auditioned, and Herman tried to give the story, and like I said, it wasn't a false story. I guess it just wasn't a good enough story for them,
Right.
and they went another direction, and it's
Right.
fine. I'm actually more excited. Like, so the same company that runs America's Best Dance Crew runs an international competition called Hip Hop International, and
hmm
we got to do that contest back in 2014. Um, so we flew into Vegas and we were there for 10 days, and the first 3 days were all about the dancing and the competition, and we placed not top three because they only took top three from the USA. to the international competition. Um, we were somewhere in the middle out of like 25, which is
Hmm.
like great. We're not last.
Right.
Awesome. But we were the first to go. So definitely some nerves to be had there. We
I think I
had
remember you talking about that too. That you, I mean, you weren't
we
expecting it.
we were number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like it's great. You get to get it over with. But
Hmm.
also it's like, oh my God, we're first. Okay. Um
And I think it's coming off, probably coming off. Where was that before or after? I'm trying to remember your timeline. Before or after America's uh, best game?
after.
It was at. So you
After.
guys had just got
Yeah.
done, years of like getting to the finals of that, and then going to this and be like, okay, you're done. You're done. Like, wow, that's like big like,
Right.
oof, okay,
So the big thing is because that same competition operated America's Best Dance Crew, because we auditioned for them so many times, we were up as candidates to compete in this competition because they don't just take anybody.
right,
The fact that we had auditioned for their show so many times, they were like, sure, put them in. We were
right,
like one of three East Coast teams. The rest were all California or Arizona or
yeah,
Florida. I mean, Florida's East Coast, but there were only a few from there.
yeah, hmm,
But it was cool to go out and say, okay, we weren't last. We were like in the middle, which is
yeah,
fine. Um, Especially we had a dancer um, in that particular crew, in that group that um, wasn't local. We didn't get to see him very often, so we didn't get to be cohesive, which is
yeah.
so important. So, as far as bands go, I know your bands that you were with. I I'm backtracking.
Uh-huh.
I don't recall you saying that you had band members that lived super far away, but I'm sure that you had people that missed here and there or more frequently than others, and it gets to be
Yeah.
taxing on the overall outcome of everything,
The
right?
first band, we were all within the same, you know,
Vicinity, yeah,
area. Where my second band, everybody was in the same area except for me. Everybody was from Jersey except for me. So I had the longer, commute. So we would do practice. Maybe it got to twice a week, and it was good because when we were at shows, we were tight. We got up there. We knew it was to the point where we knew what everybody was going to be doing, and that's like a lot of people with bands. They say if you get to the point where you like necessarily don't always have to look at your other member, but you know what he's about to do. That's when you guys know you're tight.
right.
And but then it got to the point where we're like, oh hey, how about we hang out on an extra day and then do this? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can't commit to another day because one, I'm working full time. Uh, you know, I do have a girlfriend. It helped that she was living in Jersey at the time, but
Sure.
I did have a commute, so we had to be like, okay, well, why don't you guys come to me every once in a while too? And then that started getting de-escalating because we're like, well, it's always like with bands sometimes you're always ending up at the drummer's house because he has the most to you know take down and set up and everything. So most of the time you're practicing at your drummer's house if you don't have your own rental space. So
That makes sense.
yeah. So and it was totally understandable. But it was like, how about every once in a while we just, do without and it's kind of hard sometimes too. But like
So,
we can have like,
so
smaller practices every once in a while and go to my house, and then it's one or two times out of the month I don't have to do a commute. So sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't work, but and then that later kind of started hurting the band a little bit. But
so for aspiring musicians, for anyone listening to this, if you don't know what instrument to play, Be a drummer, because then you will save yourself so much gas. Because then you'll have to demand everyone to come to you.
Yeah, except you're and it's probably better today because when you're a drummer back then you didn't have electronic drums where you can plug it into an amp and kind of just go all night. But back then you didn't have the electronics, so you're like pounding on these drums at like 10 o'clock at night, and your parents are like, and I was a drummer at first in elementary and middle school. But
Beating
then
on those
again,
little pads.
yeah, the pads and the sticks with the school band and everything, and then we had like a Kmart drum set that had like a little ting 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 symbol, and like maybe two or three different little drums there, and but then I had a couple friends who were playing guitar. And my dad's a guitar player, so I'm like, well, Dad, teach me a couple things. He got me a guitar. I learned, and that's how I ended up getting hooked up with the first band. My friend knew a guy who played guitar. He had already formed a 3-piece. Well, they were technically a 2-piece. It was just him and a bass player, and his dad was drumming for them when they were doing like a demo. So they gave me a demo of the stuff, and I'm like, I think I can kind of keep up with these guys. I mean, it's nothing that I can't play, and I was. I think that was like the 9th grade talent show that we had, and I had first played a
The Talent Expo.
Yeah, the Talent Expo. I had no idea. Yeah. I was just like, all right, well, I'll play a Hendrix song because I was. And the funniest thing, dude, I'll tell you what I wanted to do at first, which I am so glad I didn't, because I probably would have had to drop out of high school. I wanted to. I don't think I ever told you this before. I wanted to do Billie Jean and dance to it. Yeah. And I was so confident, like, dude, I can do this. And I was and I don't know what made.
You should have done it, because if you dropped out of high school, I would have just dropped out with you too.
You're like, well, at least you didn't do Billie Jean out of nowhere. So thankfully that didn't happen, and I ended up playing Jimi Hendrix song "Wind Cries Mary." First time. Was it the first time? Probably the first time I did something by myself on stage. And I won first place that night. Came in there not even expecting the place or anything. I think I was one of 2 or 3 people that were in the solo section. There was me, I think another person that played guitar, and a piano person. And so, when they said my name for first, I was like, wow, okay.
So we're zeroing back to validation, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, honestly, because
like what kind of like got us into that to be like, okay, this is something like, okay, I mean, maybe I can do this on my own,
Yeah, no, honestly, I was in 5th grade and I'm sitting there eating a pecan swirl. You know, pecan swirls, they're freaking great. They're not as
good. I gotta try it.
They're little swirly things. Like, you could peel them apart.
Okay. It's probably, yeah.
They're little they're swirls, okay?
Yeah.
They're not Uncrustables. Let's get that straight.
Yeah, not Uncrustables. They are
not even close.
Not even close.
I had 2 of those this morning. Oh my god.
I haven't had one in a while, and I've been trying to, and again, we're going to go into a health talk, but I've been trying so hard. I've been trying so hard to kind of be good with my eating because, COVID and everything. Oh, man, it's just been, and plus when you have a kid, you're not, the first thing you're not really worrying about is what you're eating. You're just worrying about making sure he eats and making sure he gets his stuff done. You're like, okay, let me just, go to Wawa and scarf down some food, or hey, Wendy's sounds pretty good right now. And you've had Wendy's for 3-4 nights and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. But
and I'm sure it's insane because you're going to get to the point where, like, your son is going to start opening his eyes to, like, the world around him and being like, oh, why is my dad 300 pounds? Oh, he's just eating Wendy's all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're just like Kevin Hart, like, damn.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
I'm not disrespecting anybody that has issues with weight. I'm not. I'm
No.
talking about you specifically.
Yeah,
And
it's fun to poke fun at me and you. It's fine. We're just
no,
poking fun at each other.
I'm just play. I'm just being. I'm trying to be respectful and say like, you want to be the best role model father for your kid as he grows up. So you're gonna get to a point where you're like, man, when my son can start remembering stuff, I want him to remember me in my best form, and that's where you're gonna have to say, okay. The stuff that we're doing now, just for the sake of making sure, okay, my kid's not falling out of his crib, falling on his head, and he's eating,
Mm-hmm.
and his poop color is normal, and like just things like that,
Just the
right? Like,
everyday stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So I think once you get past that, and once he starts talking, you'll be like, okay, he's going to start to understand stuff, and then you're going to be like, okay, now I'm going to start teaching him how to remember lyrics of songs, and then it's going to be so super fun for you. And I am so excited for you for that, and I'm excited to be witnessing that.
Yeah,
Look,
it's gonna be fun because like it's one of those things that I don't want to force music on him, but I want him to find it on his own if he can. Same way with
sure.
sports. I mean, we're me and Jen are the same way with sports. Like we want him to find it on his own, but we'll give him like, hey, this is basketball. Like we just had given him. He had gotten one for his birthday, like a basketball, like a try, like said it's like basketball, soccer, and bowling all in one. And I've been kind of showing him basketball here and there, and soccer, and kicking the ball, and a little bit of bowling and stuff. So kind of giving him that like putting in his head a little bit of like sports and stuff. But then there's times where like I was restringing my guitar before my gig, my most recent gig, and he come and every once in a while he loves looking at my guitars. So he'll look at him and start kind of like doing this little thing with the strings, and he definitely has and he definitely has an ear for sounds, and because when he hears a theme song, he like stops what he's doing and he looks at it, and because he remembers you know that like sound, and I can't even say music right now. I'm taking it as sounds. He remembers specific sounds of what he likes, so I can and if that's a music ear, then I hope he continues to develop that music ear, and that'll be awesome to see what comes out of that. But I do know, and I can feel that he has a ear for sounds. I'll take it as that.
Yeah, I mean, there is this company, or there was at least, ooh, going back 9 to 10 years now. Um, this dance company, they were called Shaping Sound. They were comprised of some of the best dancers I've ever seen.
Hmm.
But Shaping Sound is so important as to why I am here, like with you today, because I know that this is a musician's, you know, conversation. And while you have inspired me to pick up a guitar, and I have, I'm looking at the one over there right now, and you and I have had in-depth conversations about basics, and I have
Yes.
played, and I have not gotten super super far into it, just based on scheduling and other circumstances. But
And maybe that's like the maybe one of the last little topics we can get into now is like I feel now I've shown you the basics of how to play an instrument, and for my wedding you taught me the basics of choreography. I
Shaping Sound,
even before that, you had me stand in as a placement for one of your things when I was at your studio one time, but uh, but you had choreographed something for me for my wedding. So we have now experienced like me in your shoes and you're in my shoes. So let's talk
yeah.
about let's talk about that a little bit, like how you know you're you wanted to pick up an instrument, you wanted to pick up guitar. I've shown you a little bit of like the ins and outs. So tell me how, it's been a bit since you picked it back up, but like, let's talk a little bit how like being in somebody else's shoes with like, how you see the work of playing guitar and, you know, so.
So I'm going to circle back to Michael Jackson real quick because he um, brought a dancer over from Australia when the dancer was like 9 years old, I think he was.
Mm-hmm.
And by the age of 12 or 13, he was touring the country and teaching, like preteen to teenager, and was the hottest commodity a dance convention could ever get a hold of because Michael Jackson brought him over from Australia.
Right.
Right. I took class from this guy when I was 16 up in the Meadowlands in New York. And he said to me, well, not me directly, but to the classroom, he said, when you can hear in the music what each instrument values, what the guitar plays, what the drum plays, what the bass guitar plays, if there's a xylophone, a harmonica,
Yeah.
and if they're all coupled at the same time, if you can distinguish and isolate what instrument makes what sound,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you get ahead of the game. And immediately, that was like when I started saying, okay, I want to know instruments. I
Mm-hmm.
want to know, because for dancing purposes, for choreography purposes, and as I got older, I would emulate the sounds of different instruments in songs.
Yeah.
Um, because I could hear the differences. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a bass guitar, this is a kick pedal, this is
Yeah.
a cymbal, this
Mm-hmm.
is the electric guitar. And I the last thing that I would emulate is the vocals because um when your movement emulates the vocals, it seems so much more obvious to the eye
Yeah.
of someone watching. But at the same time, I would um and I'm gonna backtrack mildly. When I hear music, I listen for the vocals last,
Hmm.
and it's probably because of that conversation
Yeah.
that happened from that teacher, and it's because I'm dissecting the
Yeah.
different sounds and saying this belongs here, this is over here, and even in EDM tracks where it's like the kicks are different from the snares, everything that they do in EDM where it's electronic, it's like you can hear different ripples and different textures of everything. And at that point, it's channeling your energy different because it's like you don't need to move like blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
I always talk to like I had a private lesson today, and biggest thing I was telling the student who just started not 6 months ago was like, if you aren't performing in front of an audience and taking them on a roller coaster ride, and I have told this to you know my former students at the studio the team that I was running, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not taking them up and down, you're running on this.
Yeah.
And what's this? You're riding on a train. And what do people do on trains? They sleep.
Hmm.
What do people do on roller coaster rides? They're crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was explaining to her today. And she was like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. Totally. So the fact that I shared so much about like dynamics with her was so important to me as a coach, because when I started teaching, uh, 15, almost 20 years ago now, it was just copy me, do what I do, copy me. If you look the way that I do, you got it. Now it's a lot different. I'm like demonstrating movement, and I'm catering to the individual, and I'm saying, okay, I know your strengths and I know your weaknesses. So I'll go to the individual and say, okay, I know your weakness, so try to do this stronger. but you're also doing this really well. So it's
Yeah.
carrots and sticks. It's carrots and sticks, right?
Yeah.
My high school um, social studies teacher for freshman and senior year, he taught me carrots and sticks, where it's like, here's a carrot, great job, but also stick, 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 where it's like, good job, but also, man,
Hmm.
right? And that's life, right? Like you at your job, you're appreciated, do a great job, but also like, and I get that everywhere, where it's like, this is great, but if we want you to be better, we need to target something that we would like to be better. Here it is.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't take that personally, you're in a good spot. Um, okay, how do we get into that?
So you were saying that you wanted to start an instrument because you're starting to
Oh,
hear instrument
yes.
when you're listening to music. You're
Thank you.
dissecting different instruments, and the guitar is something you wanted to pick up because you do hear guitar, and it's kind of in that same way, like how you were talking about. You hear music, musicians feel the same way, that they hear music differently than the average listener. So, I mean, go on what you were saying now that you're back in that space.
Yeah, so I think to help conclude, um, Anthony, thank you so much for having me on board for this. I was nervous coming in, and I know that this is pre-recorded. Look, patreon.com/table_talk, subscribe, become a Patreon. My best friend Anthony has so much content to be able to share with you guys, and I would love to be a part of that. In fact, speaking of instruments, uh, I don't play one, but I view myself as one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, as a performer, as a dancer, um, we get to value ourselves as the supplemental instrument to the music that nobody else has ever heard. So, when you get to see music, that's what I live for. You know, that's what I thrive for.
Uh
And
huh.
um, Anthony here has some upcoming tracks that he is ready to release. I have been fortunate to hear a couple of the samples of them. And I am going to be sharing some dance footage to one of his upcoming tracks as a preview. Um, I'd say, before the end of the year, you would have
This
that
one,
track produced.
I think this one can definitely be before the end of the year. It's an instrumental, and I'm not sure if I might add a little bit more to it, but it's a very short thing. But I think this one's cool with being a short instrumental. It kind of it like how you said, it's not a train, but it kind of takes you through a little, coaster a little bit. I mean, knowing that you've heard it, it kind of has like something that starts you like, okay, it's coming in, then it brings in more aspects, then it brings in more, and then by the time you get it, it cuts off, and you're just like, oh, it's like you just got done, experiencing something great. It just cuts off at the very end. You hear that there's like echoes at the end. So
Sure, it's a
it's
cliffhanger, right?
yeah.
So,
So it's cool.
which is perfect. So the storyline of my performance as the extra instrument is kind of going to um, dive into how Anthony and I met, which we didn't talk about, and also kind of dive into one of Anthony and my newest passions that we definitely didn't talk about in this episode. So I'm going to kind of bridge the gap between how we met, where we are now, through both of our passions, and it's going to bring everything full circle. So excited to present this to you guys. If you're not on Patreon, once again, patreon.com/table_talk, subscribe. Spoken Life.
Yeah, make sure you
um,
guys do that. And
and we if you want to see a little bit deeper into what mine and Anthony's 20 plus year friendship is all about, you're going to want to see this one. It's very special. I'm so excited about this project. Anthony doesn't even know the details of it right now. I have this so uptight under wraps, but I have been working on it for the past like 48 hours.
and
Um,
he
It's
kind of
it's
just
so
he kind of
cool.
just put it on he kind of put it on me and saying like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, I am totally down, because I kind of went with him with an idea a couple months ago. I'm like, and I showed him this, and I'm like, this would be awesome to kind of, put something that I wrote and then put your passion of like dance into it, because I felt that it's something that you can dance to and kind of have a feeling to. So it'd be cool, because what I was mentioning with the fact that how I went into your world of knowing you choreograph you sorry uh you did some choreography for me, and I taught you some guitar. So we've kind of seen our different passions from each other. But when it comes to that, like, we both share something that we're showing people a feeling, where Jim portrays feeling through his body,
Visually,
where I'm portraying feeling through an instrument and something that you're
audibly.
hearing. And where something with Jim, you're seeing that portraying. So there's something that when it comes to feel, it's the same thing, but it's being portrayed. And this is something cool to, again, we always say like, oh, we're going to end this, but then we get something else going. But this is cool. Like, I just thought about that. Like, we're portraying some type of feeling, but we're doing it in two different aspects, where we're doing it through feeling of, being portrayed through body motion, and feeling through guitar. When they talk about, feeling, like, you can play something on guitar, but it's different when you're playing with feeling, and you put emotion behind what you're playing. And I feel it's the same way with dance. Like, you can show me a piece and I can go through the motion, but you can tell when somebody has feeling and when they're just going through the motion.
Okay, so if you don't mind, it's one of my things. I have a list because I knew I had to organize my thoughts for this because we could talk for out like
Yeah,
days, and I was
yeah.
like, for this first one, because you just said that, I want to talk about my most valued projects. Most of them come from a deeper rooted meaning, right?
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that I haven't had successful projects where it was just like, I want to make these kids freaking dance. And just let them go on stage and dance, and it doesn't have to be a theme. And sometimes judges are like, wow, I didn't have to think about like the theme behind it, but I just saw really great dancing and they love it, right? But the majority of the time, it comes from a deeper place. So this project that I am doing for Patreons only, if you want to see this, you have to subscribe.
Patreon.com/table_talk.
Thank you. Um, yes, you are going to get to see my short film that is kind of an introduction to who me and Anthony are as friends. It's not a very long thing at all. It is less than a minute, okay, which is all our time spans are anymore. If you see anything on YouTube that's like 101, you
Yep.
don't watch it. If you see something that's 59 seconds, oh yeah, you got time for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be under a minute, okay? It's not a 10-minute. Oh, we met in the sixth grade. I noticed that he had a booger here, and I was like, hey Anthony, and then we got in trouble by our teacher, and then we went home and we had to tell our moms we got in trouble in school today, and then we got beat, and we didn't. Our
We
moms are
didn't.
great. Like
No. No. No, we didn't.
no,
We didn't. No.
yeah, not that time.
Yeah, not that time.
But yeah, look, Anthony, we got to get out of here. I just want to say I love you. Thank you so much for having me. Patrons, I hope you appreciate what I have to offer as the extra instrument to Anthony. Spoken Life, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. I was so nervous coming into this, and just thank you for letting me be me. And
Absolutely, man.
perhaps it will shed some light into
We definitely have way more to talk about, and like I said, we're gonna do a part two. Yeah, I will definitely let everybody know once this video is up, and it'll be for the Patreons. So make sure you guys are subscribing because you will get notified when that video gets up. Uh, Before we get out of here, Jim, is there anything that you want to plug? I know you're going on tour. Uh, Maybe a couple more tour dates if you wanted to give them up, or if there's anything else you want to plug before we get out of here.
Yeah, sure. So if you are in or around the area of Wildwood, New Jersey, September 5th, I will be performing there. Um, October 16th, I'll be in West Newbury, New York. The end of October, still pending, I'll be in Cancun to do a backup gig in case if any of you are in Cancun. Um, November 27th, I should be down in Daytona, Florida, if you're down there. And then December 4th, San Diego, California, is where I will be. And that will round me out for 2021. If you want to see any more performances from me, otherwise, you can find me in my DMs. If you don't know how to reach out to me, patreon.com/table_talk. You can ask Mr. Spoken Life, Anthony Irvin himself, and he will let you know how to get a hold of me. Sound good?
Absolutely. And you guys can catch me next month. I do have a confirmed gig back up at Tom's Bar and Grill in Royersford, PA. So if anybody's watching within the area, feel free to come out. I will be live streaming the gigs. I live stream all my gigs. I will be back at the Sterling Pig hopefully next month. I haven't got a confirmed date for that yet, but I had a fun time debuting over there last week. It was a fun time, so looking forward to coming back, and that's in Media, PA. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the Patreon, and if you guys want to be staying updated on my gigs and stuff, go to spokenlifemusic.com. You can sign up to the email list. I put out all my gigs and when I'm playing, where I'm playing. So if you're in the area, or if even if you're not, sign up to the email list and watch the live streams. So once again, I want to say thank you to Jim Green for being on here with me. Love you, bro. Let's do this again very, very soon. We have a lot more to talk about. You know it. I know it. And thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Table Talk. If you like it, make sure to give this a like, a follow. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us so much. Even if you give it a 5-star without a review, or if you give it a 5-star and a thumbs up, it gives us a lot of help on the reviews and the charts and everything. And share this episode with a friend and past episodes. If you love the content, and if you have any guest submissions, if you're a musician or any type of entertainer that would love to be on the show, hit me up. You can find me on the website, spokenlifemusic.com/table-talk. And there's a guest submission that you can enter, and you can put in your submissions for there. So thank you once again. And I will see you all on the next episode of Table Talk. Jim, thank you very much. Talking to you soon, buddy.
Anthony, I love you, brother. Talk soon.
Too.
Thank you.
Have a good one.